Howdy, hey, hello. It's McKenna, and this is another episode of Munch and Mingle. It is just me today, but can I say that I'm excited? Because apparently on every episode I do, I'm very excited for whoever is speaking or what we're talking about. So we're excited. This is actually, I'm not emotional. I'm anticipatory. Is that a word? I'm anticipating. So you guys know when I started this podcast, I felt, yes, I wanted to do it 100%. Like this has always been a dream of mine. But I definitely felt very spiritually pushed, driven. And I think that's why I've enjoyed this so much, is because every episode for the most part, I come up with a lot of the episodes, but it seems like every time before I sit down to do an episode, it's like, okay, this is for someone. Or just like you heard last week with David's episode, it was, hey, you got to bump that episode up. We need to do it right now. Well, here's another one. This is another type of that episode. We're going to be talking about divorce, which such a fun topic. And I mean that in all the sarcasm that you can feel through this audio. But it is going to be from the kids' perspective. So as most of you know, my parents were or are divorced. So that is what we're going to talk about. I did have this idea to do this original episode. I think I had it in my notebook. I just pulled out the paper, like my script for it. And I was planning to do it, I think last month. And I just was like, no, I can't do this. And I actually just put it off like, nope, I think that was just not an episode I'm ever going to do. And honestly, I think I still feel a little nervousness of approaching this topic. And not so much that I'm not, I can definitely talk about it, but it's just hard because, this involves a lot of other people in my life. And I don't want to do them why can I not think of words? I want to do them justice as well, because there is a lot that goes through divorce. So anywho, the whole point is that's why I just was like, no, I can't do this. Well, at the beginning of this week, my dad gave me and Ginger a phone call and said, hey, I just need to give you guys some dad counsel. I really have a feeling to tell you guys, of course, all the time, but especially this week, I'm having a really strong feeling to tell you guys, you need to listen to the spirit. Whatever promptings you get, I need you to follow them. I need you to be very in tune and aware. And it was just like, okay, all right, Dad. And sure enough, it was Ginger who actually called me like 2 days later, and she's like, yeah, I actually started getting a feeling to do something, and I did it and nothing happened. But I don't know if nothing happened because I did what I was supposed to do or if I'm just in my head. And honestly, my whole thought is that, nope, just do it. But sure enough, the next day I was listening to the radio and all of a sudden I hear Tom Brady and his wife Giselle have now hired lawyers and have been seen without, not wearing their wedding rings. Divorce is inevitable. And all of a sudden it pinged my heart. McKenna, it's time to do the divorce episode. Now, I do not think Tom Brady or Giselle are going to be listening to Munch and Mingle. If you are, please know that I adore you both. Tom Brady, I watched her documentary. It was great. And it actually is really sad if this is what is inevitably coming. But anyway, sorry. That's where the prompting came from. So Tom Brady and Giselle. Also, I am supposed to be in Vegas right now. Tonight, it is Friday when I'm recording this, the night before the Notre Dame game. And I was supposed to be there, but plans didn't work out. So I am here now currently doing this episode. And in the background, I have, oh my gosh, this game between Colorado State and Nevada going on, obviously muted. But I cannot, this game, Oh man. If anyone else is watching this, it's very late. I don't know who else would be watching it, but that is what I am doing here tonight. All right. Before we go any further, we're going to go on to our munchie real quick. That is the sound of a Chobani flip. This shout out to one of my old roommates, Taylor Kuntz. Her last name is not Kuntz anymore. That was her maiden name. But she introduced these to me. And at the time I was like, gross. I hate Greek yogurt. No, thank you. So never got into like any, I was like, whatever. But it was, oh my gosh, after we moved out and I got really into like tracking macros, I saw this and I was like, I'm going to try it again. And I love them, particularly the peanut butter cup. That's the one I have right here. And guys, I'll just read it right off here. It's chocolate and peanut butter flavored low fat Greek yogurt with peanut butter cups, fudge coated peanuts, and peanut butter clusters. And you literally just dump the one corner into the other part of yogurt. And it is a sweet, delicate treat. They've got so many other flavors. The cookie dough is my next favorite one, but the peanut butter cup, top notch. So that is my munchie tonight. It will be my dessert after this podcast or this episode. All right. And like I said, I already said a prayer before this episode. I was like, okay, Heavenly Father, you guide me. Jesus, take the wheel. Here we go. And so just as I start off, this is what I want to put out as my little PSA. This is my story. I know so many people out there who have different stories. This is just, I am putting this out there and may it get taken to wherever it needs to be. Like I said, there are other people who are part of this journey, and I won't go too much into detail about their parts of the story because that's their life, that's their parts. I will just try to keep it very generalized as much as I can. But here we go. Also, another big thing, I am never condoning anyone to ever stay in a relationship that, abuse is happening. Any sort of, I can only think of adulterous act. But if you are getting cheated on, if that is, I am never condoning any of those. I have seen people leave a marriage for far less, and I have seen people stay in a marriage and make it work with much more than just those two things I said. But that is just, I need everyone to know that, like, that is nothing I will ever condone. I am a fan of marriage, 100%, but I am also a fan of people not getting hurt in whatever way that is. So I just need to make that clear. And most of you who know me know that. But for anyone, if you don't know me, I just need you to know that. So here we go. So starting from the beginning, if you go back and listen to the episode, Little Sister, Big Dreams, that's what I did with Ginger. And you'll kind of also get another point of view of my growing up life. It is through Ginger's eyes, but you kind of get it and you can kind of hear another side from this part of the story. But I've written down what I've kind of been led to tonight, but I also did rip out that other page that I wrote, and there's actually some funny things. So I'm going to pull from that a little too. Okay. Growing up, honestly, so my parents got divorced officially right before I turned 11. And the actual divorce happened while we were away. Me and my two sisters went and stayed with my dad's mom in Las Vegas for the whole summer. And that's when the actual divorce happened. Prior to that, my parents had been separated multiple times. And honestly, I don't remember a lot though. Before, I can remember those big moments. And I always joke that I have a short-term memory loss. I just don't remember things. Like Ginger, my sister, Kayla, my other sister, will tell me things like, don't you remember this with mom and dad? And I cannot for the life of me remember it. And as I was writing this out, I realized, oh my gosh, I think I realized this, that I shut out a lot of memories. If it ever had to do with something that was traumatic or hard, or in my little people pleaser, McKenna, everything is fine brain, I would just, I forgot it. I know it's probably still in there. I don't think there's anything that like, again, I don't believe there was any abuse or anything that I'm like traumatically dealing from. No. I do remember here and there, my parents did fight a lot. That was it. That is basically the generalization that I can remember. I was never hurt. I was never like physically, emotionally abused, sexually abused, none of that. I just remember my parents always gunning at each other. So that's about it. But I cannot remember specific times or whatnot. No. You ask Kayla or Ginger, they could totally give you some. Maybe not Ginger. Ginger was really young. Kayla for sure. But me, not as much. So I remember the summer that we were at Grandma Janet's, and that was like the first time we were ever away from my parents. That was 3 months that we were completely away from them. And we knew that they were getting a divorce. Like I said, they had already been separated at that time. We're living in 2 different homes. And honestly, like it didn't really feel too different for me at that point. I knew what was happening in essence, but it was like, okay, because when they got separated, the fighting just really didn't happen anymore. So for us kids, we were like, awesome. And I've talked to my parents, and both of them have agreed on this level that the reason that their marriage stopped is because they stopped working at it, in essence. And that will kind of come into play when I go over some other things. But we go home from Vegas, and we're living with my mom. We live in West Point in Utah. I was in 6th grade. And life was pretty good. My mom worked, I'm pretty sure this was the time she worked for Clinique at the Layton Hills Mall. And so she would work full time. So we'd go to school. We'd come home, and she wouldn't get home till later. And it was hard. I cannot imagine the stress that she felt, you know, being a single mom's hard. She still had to work. My dad did obviously give child support, but it was hard. And I admire both my parents so much. And I admire any parent out there who has to, you know, go through a divorce and then support kids, let alone 3. So, but that was my life. I just got used to, you know, take care of yourself. We lived in a very small neighborhood that we knew all the neighborhood kids. So it was pretty good. We just knew, okay, be home at night. Mom will get home. And then on weekends, my dad was living in Harrisville, which is kind of up by Ogden. And we'd go there on the weekends. And my dad worked graveyard shifts. So when we would go, we would just hang out there because he'd be sleeping during the day. And then at night, we would just sleep at the house. And I know we were like, oh my gosh, at this time, Kayla was 14. Still a lot of responsibility, bless her. But like we were all kind of just like taking care of ourselves. I think, I became the very young mom, and that was just me. That was my personality. So I very much was like, I'll take care of Ginger and whatnot. I think me and Ginger slept in my dad's bed, obviously when he was working. So it was fine. Like I was never ever worried. Obviously my mom was not worried. We were in a place that it was okay. But within that year, my mom started dating my stepdad, and they got married. They actually went and eloped. And all I remember is I was feeling very sad. We were at my mom's house, and I was on the phone with her, and she had just said, you know, we're in Vegas. We'll be home, but this is happening. And I remember I got really sad, and I must have been going to dad's that weekend. There's no way she would have done it during the week. So it was probably a weekend we were going to dad's. That's why they eloped. And I just remember like, Mom, I'm so sad. Like, I want to see you get married. But I also think I was sad because it was like, wait, you're already getting married again? Like it hasn't even been a year. But they did. And this is the hard part. We moved down the street. We still lived in West Point, but Scott had been previously married before. So he had kids. So I gained 4 step siblings. And he was very busy, but he was like also going to visit his kids. I can't remember where they lived. I think they lived down by Salt Lake, if what I remember is right. Or were they in Clearfield? Either way. So he had a busy life. I just don't remember him around that much. And like, we would go to my dad's every weekend. So I remember meeting him. Me and him got super close really fast because he would take me to the gas station, Maverick, when they would do their Wonka sale where you'd get 4 Wonka candies for $1. And I remember he went to go take us kids and he's like, here, McKenna, because he knew this was my favorite thing. He gave me $2. And I was like, Mom, I love this guy. So that's how me and Scott bonded, was through candy. But really, like, Scott was and is a great stepdad because he had kids. He knew how to deal with kids. Like, it was just normal. Well, during this time, I'm hoping my timeline's right, but along the lines, my dad started dating someone. Oh my gosh. Okay, wait, this is so funny. So my dad was dating someone seriously before my now stepmom. This is the funny story, is I totally thought they were going to get married, and she had 3 boys who were all the same age as us 3 girls. And they obviously didn't get married, but I'm on my mission in New Zealand. And all of a sudden I look behind me and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I remember my companion was like, what? And I was like, well, the elder sitting behind us, he was supposed to be my stepbrother. Yep, we served in the same mission. Elder Hopewade and me. Sorry, I just remembered that. It obviously was not supposed to happen, and it's totally fine that it didn't, because I like how this turned out better. But it was just funny. We saw each other and we're like, hello. And I think we ended up laughing about it. I was just like, yep, that's funny. That could have been. Anyway, so my dad did start dating Tracy, and we had met her a couple times. I remember there was a Father's Day. She came out to Harrisville and she like helped us do Father's Day for Dad. And it was really good. I was like, yeah, this girl's really cool. This lady is probably what I said in my head. I was like, I pretty much got along with both my step-parents really good. I was like, yep, I'm fine. But like I said, was I 12? 12? Getting ready to turn 13. As a girl, I was a natural born, like, I want them to like me. So I was taught as a kid, you respect your elders, you respect authority. So I was pretty good to listen to the rules, get along, help out where I could. Like, that was just, and is most of the time, for my personality. So I felt it was fine. So when Dad told us he was going to get married to Tracy, I was like, yeah. I remember saying, yeah, I'm totally good. And it was also like, wow, you're getting married already too. Okay. So both my parents were remarried within pretty much that first year, if not a little over. And again, if my parents are going to be screaming like, McKenna, you're getting the timeline wrong, it was close. At this time, and I can't blame him. My stepdad was going through a lot. Like I said, he had his own kids. They were living with their mom. And at this time, my stepdad and my mom decided it wasn't going to work out, and he needed to go figure out how to make it work with his ex-wife for their kids. So they separated, and all of this was going on. My mom was not in a great place, as I imagined no one would be. So Dad and Tracy got married, and we moved in with Dad and Tracy. And I, at that point, I was like, okay, we're moving. We moved to Centerville, and new school. I was starting junior high and going in knowing nobody, except Kayla. Kayla was in 9th grade. And now we are living with my dad, which is, I was close with my dad, but I was closer with my mom at this time. And now my new stepmom. And bless her, because not only did she they got married in June, and we went out to Vegas again, because that was the next year. So we went out to Vegas. We came home at the end of the summer, and I was about to turn 13. So you've got a 13-year-old, 15-year-old, and then 12, 11, 10, 9-year-old Ginger. I think, why does that sound so young still? Or that I feel like she was younger. But anyway, all that's happening. And I can imagine for Tracy, that is a lot to take on. And it was hard for us. We were trying to learn a new situation, where it's like, okay, wait, we have two moms now. They're both very different. My dad was working, why do I feel like it was two jobs? So he wasn't there. So we got very, like kind of thrown in with Tracy. Tracy was thrown into being a full-on mom, as she's learning how to be a newlywed. And it was hard for all of us. It was really hard. And so at that time, was it in 7th grade? Yeah, maybe 8th grade. I can't remember, you guys. I'm serious. Like, this is where I think a lot of the time my memory just shut off. Like, it's like, nope. But sometime in junior high, my angsty teenage, preteen, whatever self, I said, nope, I'm going to go live with my mom. My mom was not in the best place, but I was like, I'm going. So I left, and I went and moved in with my mom. And then she put me in basically what is like a private school, but it was for her church. It was called Christian Life Center. I went to LCA in Layton Christian Academy. And I was there for about 6 months before the situation with my mom. This is actually when her and my stepdad started to reconcile and we're coming back together. It just wasn't working with his ex-wife. And through all that, my dad then said, McKenna, it's time for you to come back here. Your mom's got to figure out some things with Scott, and it's probably not the best environment for you right now. And it was, guys, we were in this practical shack. Me and my mom had to share the same room, but like our kitchen was in the same room. It was not a great place. And even my mom was like, oh my gosh, that place. But so I moved back with Dad and Tracy. So then I was there, stayed there through junior high. And then at that time, Kayla had some things going on in her life. And my dad basically said, you know what, Kayla, this is a time you need your mom. So Kayla went to my mom. And that was so good. If you ask both of them, like Kayla needed that. Ginger then went with my mom, and it was just me. And I wanted to stay. I was like, I've already gone and done the thing with mom. I've now established myself here at Centerville Junior. I'm ready to go to high school, go to Viewmont High. And it just didn't work out. My dad and I had a really long talk, and he just basically said the same thing as, McKenna, you're going into high school, and I think right now you need to be with your mom. And it was the hardest thing. I was not happy to go back and live with my mom. And I did. So I had to go start a whole new thing at high school. But there are many blessings along the way. So backtracking a little, when I was originally living with Dad and Tracy, when we moved to Centerville after they first got married, I met a friend in my ward. Her name is Carolyn Gold. It's Carolyn Heaton now. But she was a Gold. We were in the Young Women's, and to this day, she'll tell me how my mom came up to me and said, there's this new girl in the ward. You need to go say hi to her. And here comes Carolyn in her purple kimono. She comes up to me. Hi. My name's Carolyn. What's your name? And we became best friends. So I had Carolyn. We were going to the same junior high. It's so sad. She's 2 months younger than me, but we were in different grades. So we were going to junior high together. So when I was leaving, I was like, I don't want to, I have my best friend Carolyn here. However, when I was living with my mom and going to LCA, I met my friend Cami Nisler, and she was going to LCA, and I was the weird girl with gel pens, and that's how I was making friends, as I would give gel pens away. And that's how she remembers me, as she was that weird girl who was giving gel pens. But I think her mom said too, you need to be nice to McKenna. And Cammie invited me over to her house one day and boom, best friends. So I had best friends on both sides. So when I would go to visit my mom on the weekends when we were at my dad's, I would go see Cammie. And then when I was here at my dad's, I'd go see Carolyn. So then when I was moving to my mom's, I was like, okay, wait, Carolyn, and that's fine because we're only 15 minutes away. But I was like, oh my gosh, Cammie was still going to LCA. Bless her parents. She asked them, can I go to Northridge with McKenna? And they said yes. Oh, how I love Jeff and Tina Nisler because that just helped me settle in so much more that I was like, okay, I can do this because I've got Cammie with me. So the reason I bring up those two families, and another family I'll bring up is during this time, through all this is going on, like I said, I don't remember a lot. And I think that's also because I retreated. I left when things weren't going wrong. And again, I is that an empath? Is that what it's called? When you like absorb feelings, I left. And it's something I get emotional about all the time because more for my sisters, because that was a pact that we could rely on. Like it was us three who, knew exactly those two are the only other two girls who knew exactly what I was going through and feeling. And I left them because I was needing to get out. And if you go listen to Ginger's episode, you'll hear a lot of that. That is what I did. But who I retreated to was where I was in my angsty and, teenage self, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And I'm mad at my mom. I'm mad at my dad. I'm mad at my step parents, all of this. I then went to the Gold's house. They lived right down the street from me, Carolyn's parents. And when I was at my mom's, I went to the Nislers. And those two families will lovingly call me their adopted daughter. And they did. They had a whole part in raising me. And I'm so grateful for those families because I just became a part of that. And I needed that. My personality needed it. And I was just so grateful for that. But the funny thing is, when you ask me about what's your perspective on divorce and whatnot, is I have a great relationship with my step parents. And out of all the three girls, I'm probably the one who has a great one with both of them, both my stepdad and my stepmom and my parents. And for Ginger and Kayla, it's their own relationship, their own story. But I honestly think I think a lot of that has to do because I would leave. So I didn't go through a lot of the same things that Kayla and Ginger would have to go through. And for that, I apologize dearly to them. But I'm so grateful that they still take me as their sister. And hopefully they know I love them and I would do anything for all my siblings. But especially those two, because they are my life. Anyway, sorry. This is really hard. See, this is why I was like, why am I talking about this? But okay. Anyway. So what brought me to this is, what can I give to anyone out there who might be facing that, just that looming subject of, okay, I think we need to get a divorce. So this is where I've kind of started to compile using from the past thing I wrote out and kind of what I now am seeing today. So we're going to kind of go through that and just take it from there. So the biggest thing that I wrote first, we're going to talk about marriage a little bit here. And you guys know I already did an episode about my 7 marriage tips. Highly recommend listening to that one too. But here's the thing. When you do get married for real. That's all I can say. Britton and I have talked about this extensively, and we just talked about this a couple of days ago. But we've both said we will highly recommend, especially, to my boys, but to our boys, that they date whoever they are thinking could be a potential spouse at least for a year. And I know people out there are like, you're in Utah, that doesn't happen. Nope. Because me and their dad did. And it's working out quite great, actually. So I don't think any marriage is doomed that doesn't date over a year. But I just, from what I've learned and what I've seen, that I'm like, nope, that is great. And it's not saying that, you know, like I said in my other marriage tips, you don't marry perfection. That's not what I'm talking about. It's you get as much of the, what is it? Like you turn your defrost on, off. Yes. Because when you start dating, especially like in me, I saw it when I started dating Britton, there's this bubble. And so you need to kind of defrost that. Be like, okay, I need a CEO. So another family, this is also, because this is advice I got, is my aunt and uncle, my Uncle Wade and my Aunt Amy. They were also a very needed source of light. About when I was 15, I think I got my driver's permit, which doesn't make sense because how would I have driven there? 15 or 16. They lived in Harriman. So that's like a 45-minute drive from where I was, if not longer. And I would drive out there almost every other weekend. And they, again, I have cousins, Lindsay, Brett, and Peyton, and they became like my siblings. So they were another great source of light during a very hard time in my life. But one of the advice that my Uncle Wade would always give me, there was a couple of advice, but these two is, one, it was the jelly bean theory. He's like, when you're dating, you need to try, like, what's your favorite jelly bean flavor? And I think I would say blue raspberry. And he's like, so how do you know blue raspberry is your favorite if you haven't tried cherry? And I would be like, well, I tried cherry. I know I don't like that. He's okay. Have you tried this one? No. Okay. How do you know that's not your favorite if you haven't tried it? So he would use that for dating. He's like, you need to go and date. Don't stick to one flavor before you've tried a bunch. Now, I know some people can take that same context, be like, you need to test drive. No, I'm not going down that road. I am talking about pure dating, especially when you are young. And this will be the same advice we give to our boys, is especially when you turn 16, go taste. I was going to say taste the rainbow, but again, this is so hard to be like, no, just go learn how to date, learn how, like, different things that you like to see. But then, another piece of advice. Well, okay, hold on. So what I came up with is why we want our boys to date for at least a year is I want them to see whoever their potential spouse is. I want to see them through 4 seasons, not just 4 seasons of the year, but like 4 seasons of their life. You know, there's so much that can happen in a year and you truly will get to know a person. But the other great thing, you get to know their family. That was a huge blessing. When Britton left, is I got to learn about Britton through his family, and I got to build my own relationships with them. And that just, like, because as you guys know, you marry the family, and that's such a great blessing to already have that established relationship with them. So another thing that my Uncle Wade told me, he's like, and then once you do find someone and you really want to continue to see how it's going to go, you need to spill a milkshake on them. And I always remember, I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, you need to see how they react when you spill a milkshake. He's like, not on the first date. This is a couple dates down the road when you're getting a little bit more comfortable around each other. Because then you're going to really see how that person is going to treat you in the hard times. And that, I have not spilled a milkshake on Britton, but I think there have been many situations where it's like, oh, and I got to see how he would react. And I was like, wait, okay, that was really good. Or, okay, we can work with that. Anyway, so the whole point is, like I said, when you go back to marriage, you get married for real. Okay, you can totally take those bubbly, blissful moments. But if, heaven forbid, you know, when time gets tough and I mean, I'm going to use it here, Satan, or whatever you want to put, like the universe, or when the going gets tough, when certain things start to poke and tear apart your marriage, dig your heels deeper. Go back to those great things. Just, you have that much more experience under your belt to keep you in the game. And I think that's huge, especially if divorce becomes an option. So the whole other basis on kind of why I was going towards that topic is because I think the view of marriage, the sacredity of marriage, is being distorted, is being changed, and it's so quickly you can just get a divorce. If it doesn't work out, oh, if he plays video games too much, oh, she shops too much. Those little things that it's like, okay, wait, so we're just leaving? We're just done? That's what's hard. However, if it's going to happen, now I fully believe that any marriage can work. I totally believe it. And again, as you just heard in the last episode last week from David, his marriage advice, his one piece of advice is sacrifice to continue to keep a marriage thriving. And I think that's 100% true. Go watch the movie Fireproof. That was also a good option. But if it's going to happen and you don't have kids, okay. But you better dang be more pickier than you were even the first time. So instead of seeing them like through a season, 4 seasons of their life, I need you to add an additional 4 seasons. Because I'm done with people ruining the sacredity of marriage, because it is still a very real thing and an awesome thing. So, sorry, that was my little soapbox. Okay, but then here's the thing. Excuse me. What if you have kids? Now, this is kind of where I am basing the entire thing of this episode on. Number one is a true fact that children thrive in a family unit. Clearly, as we saw, I retreated from my situation to other family units. And I am, like I said, I'm very grateful, but I think a big part of who I am is because of those family units, how they blessed my life. Because mine at the time was going through a lot of hardship, and I knew this is not serving me in any purpose right now. I need to leave. So I went to other family units, and thank the Lord they brought me in. And honestly, I think that's what helped me so much. But this is where I was talking to my stepmom about this today, is that how do you do this then? But then basically you could always say, which side, who's in this case, Tom Brady or Gisele's side? In this case, I am on neither of their sides. I'm on the kids' side. And it is a fact, and I'm even saying it as a fact from my life, that kids will do better with their parents together. So parents need to fight and do all they can to stay together. Now, what if it's just, I can't stand being around this person, you expect me to just lie? Well, here's the one antidote that I think can help is you put your spouse first and the rest will trickle down. You put your spouse first, your kids second. And I know that sounds crazy, but I full-heartedly believe that if you sacrifice and you truly go and serve and love and put all this energy and devotion into your spouse, it will trickle down. Your kids will know that love because of the love they see for your parents. Now, I am not saying you full on go neglect your children. Y'all know that. But you also know that when your parents were in a loving, happy mood, it did something to the whole way of the household. And obviously, parents can have arguments, disagreements. Then go retreat to a room and you two figure that out. Because you can. You're the adults. Your kids need a home where they feel safe and they feel security. And you as adults again, you're the adults. You can do that. And they are relying on you for that. So that whole thing with the spouse first, kids second, that is my motto in our household. But I heard this when I was a senior. I was taking adult roles and we were going through different family relations. And my teacher said that. She said, it is your spouse first and your kids second, except when you're divorced. And I remember when she said that, like my ears perked up. I was like, what? Wait, that's me. But I think that is where a lot of the issues arose in my family life. It was never the spouse first between my mom and dad. And then when they did get a divorce, there was a lot of my mom and dad putting their spouse first and us three getting kind of put in that second tier. And the reason why that is so different is, like I said, when it is, like, I'll use my son, an example, Baker. He knows that Britton loves him. He knows that I love him. So even if I have to go send Baker to simmer down after a tantrum, he still knows I love him. That is just an innate ability that he has because he comes from me. He comes from Britton. He knows that. That security, that safety is there. But if there is someone else who is sending Baker to go simmer down, he's not sure. He doesn't just know that love, that compassion right off the bat. That's going to take time. And so that's what I mean when if heaven forbid you have to get a divorce and you have kids, then you know that has to be swapped. Your kids have to then come first because you have now gone and uprooted their lives and totally removed that safety and security net. So now it is going to be even more that you have to then go and ensure them you are safe. You are secure. You are my child. I've got you. Kids need that. So that's where as I've talked about it with my stepmom, my stepdad, definitely it's like, okay, a lot of times my mom and dad just let the other step parent take over. And they know now, as we've talked about, that probably wasn't the best idea. It wasn't great for the step parent because then they got the bad rap. But then us as kids, that was a lot of the issues that we had to work through. Now, as you all know, like I said, my parents have been remarried, and that is honestly how I look at my family now. My parents have been remarried longer than they were married to each other. And I have 2 more sisters with Dad and Tracy, and I got 4 step siblings with Mom and Scott. I have 8 siblings though. That's exactly how I look at it. And that is what I was thinking when I was doing this today is like, no, this is going to my mom and Scott. This is going to my dad and Tracy is you do everything to stay in this marriage, to make it work for Allie and Jersey, my half sisters, and for Whitney and Carson, they are older, but for Ash and Zach, my other siblings who are younger, that is who, in my family that I'm pushing this to. Okay. So the next third option, or little thing that I wanted to touch on, like I said, if you do end up getting a divorce and you do have kids, right? You're just realizing like you have a whole new, priority now. Before you even think about getting remarried, you've got to build that security for your kids. Now, let's say you've built it, but like I said, I don't know how single parents do it. And anytime I meet someone or see someone, I am in awe of them because it is the hardest thing. Now, there are statistics out there. There's also a very famous radio talk show host, Dr. Laura, who says if you are to get a divorce and you have kids, you should not be getting remarried until your youngest is at least 18. I agree with that because I definitely see the instances of what happens before that happens. Divorce is never easy, But if they can build that security up to when they get to then be an adult, that's just how I feel. And people might not agree with this, is sorry, like, it's not just your life anymore. You know, if you get a divorce, you now have children who look up to you, who need that guidance. And yeah, that's just my thought. Sorry, I could go in all on that. But anyway, that is where I'm going with this. But should it come up and you do get remarried, this is something I actually learned from my sealer's wife. So when Britton and I got sealed in the temple, our sealer was my friend Justin Craig's, oh my goodness, is it uncle? Second uncle? He sealed Justin Craig and his wife, Jacqueline. And I remember going there sealing. I was like, wow, that was a great sealing. Like, amazing sealing. And so when Britt and I were getting sealed, we got sealed in the same temple as Justin and Jacqueline. And I remember reaching out to Justin. I was like, I know this is going to sound weird. Can I request your uncle? And he was totally like, oh yeah, 100%. I'm going to give him your number. And I just was like, whoa, really? I thought you just like put it in the temple. So, Brother Rife, our sealer, invited us over to his home. Like, we got to know our sealer and his wife very well. It was amazing. I think that's what made our sealing all the better. But they took us out to dinner right before our sealing, and he was just going over things with us. And his wife, we were talking about it, and I realized she was Brother Rife's second wife. And I kind of was like, wait, what? And that's a whole nother story. But basically, Brother Rife's wife had passed away. And then that's why he was remarried. And she said this to me at that dinner as we were talking about it. And I asked her, how was it for her? You know, because at least in my situation, my parents didn't pass away. They were still very much there. And so I was like, was it easier? You know, because you didn't have to worry about like being a stepmom with the mom still around. And she said, you know, I've come to realize that when you are a step parent, the actual term for step parent is you are a step down from their actual parents. And I was so shocked when she said that. I was like, wow, how do you even go about that? Like, doesn't that make you feel bad? And she said, you know, no, because my stepchildren know that I am there to support them through anything, but I'm not their mom. And I'll never be their mom. And that is what I would then tell to anyone. If any of my friends, anyone that I knew was ever going to get or to be married and to then become a stepmom or stepdad, I would tell them that same advice. Just be aware that you are a step down and that's okay. And along with that, I thought this advice, but then my mom told me that she learned this in her step parenting class. I don't think that step parents should, and let me be clear, I think they can definitely have a say in it with their spouse. But when it comes to disciplining or, what's the word? Not exemplifying, demonstrating or doing the actual disciplining, that should be only from the actual parent. And my mom told me, she was like, no, that's actually what they teach in step parenting class. And I was like, oh, okay, then I must be on the right track. And that again goes back to that thing about when, like, if I am to discipline Baker, yes, it still sucks, but he knows my unconditional love for him. And I'm not saying that step parents out there don't have that. It's just not as easily innate to just realize, especially when you are a child. And so what it does, I think, is it builds that barrier between the step parent and the child. And honestly, the great thing about this is what my mom told me in that class. She's like, really? What they say to do? You just get to be the fun uncle or the fun aunt, basically, in essence. Yes, you are still a parental figure, but you honestly get to be like, I'm home free. I'm scotch free. I'm just here to like, yeah, I can be here for advice, but I don't have to do any of the disciplining. That's great. Like, I just think that would help a lot of situations between child, step parent. I wrote this on my other No, it's like if you decide to get remarried and it's with kids, it's pretty hard for that parent who's like the single parent, but it's very hard for that new parent, and it's extremely hard for the kids. So just with that in mind, that's where I think, that step parenting class obviously was saying it too. It's hard for everyone. So let's just keep that safety and security net for the kids and then go from there. Whew. Okay. Do I still have you? Oh, man. Alrighty. Those are basically just the main things I wanted to get across is marry for real. With a little like dash, children thrive in a family unit, but then spouse first, kids second, except when you're divorced, and step parents are stepped down from actual parents. So really quickly, I just wanted to go into what my story is now. It's like in my marriage. And I know we did this already in my episode, our Meet Cute episode, which is my number one episode, by the way. And I'm so glad that you guys love it because I love him. I love Britton Hogan so much. And that's what I kind of wanted to bring up is how did this come about? So honestly, when I was in high school, I found myself repeatedly saying a prayer when a lot of, hard times were going through or had been through. I would pray to Heavenly Father, okay, Heavenly Father, since I'm going through this hard thing, I really, really need you to get me a good husband. Like I really need that. And if you can do that, I will then know, okay, this was not all done in vain. Guys, I would pray that prayer so many times. Like, okay, you're going to make up for this when you get me a really good husband, right? And thank the Lord, yes, he did. He so did. I'm jumping all over episodes, but like with Ginger's episode, like when I got home from my mission, I was trying to get married and blah, 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 and going to all the wrong places. And it was just like, what are you doing? And I literally had to get slapped in the face, like, calm down. Okay. This is not going to get you there. And I met Britton, and I had this thought in the back of my head from when I was living with Dad and Tracy. So junior high, we had a neighbor, and she was just talking to me one day. And I remember she said, and it's like, she knew I came from a divorced family, but she's like, I've always told my kids, I don't want them to marry anyone who has divorced parents. And I remember looking at her like, you're talking to me, right? But okay. And I said, so, well, why? She's like, well, because they will have seen their parents get a divorce. And so they will automatically go to divorce when things get hard in their marriage with my kids. Maybe. But actually, I was the complete opposite. Because I basically saw what not to do between my mom and dad. That's in essence, I was like, nope, okay, don't do that. And that's what I think made me the even better candidate to get married to, is I was like, no, that's not even on the option plate. Like I said, when I knew when I was getting married, I'm getting married for real. I will be going through all this stuff to ensure you are the person I want to spend eternity with. So, like I said, we met Britton. He goes on his mission. I get to meet his family. He comes home. We get married. And you guys, we are in it. I know I said a lot of like I retreated in the back before, but that is definitely not what happens in our marriage. And Britton knows, I think even sometimes he's like, geez, McKenna. But I'm in it, and he knows it. I am here for him every day, and I am in it for the long haul. I am in it for eternity and beyond. And the best thing is my boys, I know, will know how much I love them. Because of how much I love their dad. I love Britton Neil Hogan. Like in my whole entire body, I cannot get over him. Like I am obsessed with him. And the greatest thing is I know he feels the same way about me. And I know that anyone out there can have that same exact marriage. Whether you are searching, you're in the game, or you are married. Everyone can have that marriage. I 100% believe it. And again, if you are in a place where it seems bleak, you don't know how you're going to make it through, don't give up yet. Do the very things that deep down you know you can do that need to be done. Because I promise that will always bring the greater rewards. I know it. I know it. And again, like I said, this episode came on a prompting. And if it was just for me to hear again, I am totally okay with that. But if there is someone out there who needed to hear this, I just pray and hope that the Spirit, that the universe, whatever it is for you, can tell you in your heart and in your head what you need to do and that you can do it. Alrighty. Are we on the same page? I was kind of all over, but that's what I think are sometimes the best episodes. All right. Well, enjoy your weekend. Actually, you'll be hearing this during the week, so enjoy your week. And yeah, I love you guys. And thank you for being here, for coming once again, to another episode on Munch and Mingle. And we will talk to you next week. Bye.